been quite the year. It began with an abrupt papal resignation last February. A couple of weeks later, we had this man from Buenos Aires, we knew little about, elected as the Vicar of Christ, the Supreme Pontiff, our Holy Father, Pope Francis. We didn't know what to expect, but I think most of us have been pleasantly surprised. Each day, after I get ready in the morning, before I come over to the morning Mass, I actually have to check online to see what he said or what he has done, just in case I have to make a comment on it early in the morning. He's not changed anything. Doctrine remains the same. Yet his approachability, the new life that he's breathing into the church is so evident. It's like all the windows have been opened wide. The Spirit is just breathing, swirling us up, making us get back to the basics. We had forgotten, I think, and not to discredit the papacies of John Paul II, soon to be St. John Paul II, or Benedict XVI. Pope Francis is just so filled with God's Spirit, he's spreading it. People are identifying themselves once again as being Catholic. I know friends of mine in the Interchurch Council, that's all they can speak about. These aren't Catholics. The Muslim world, the moderate Muslim world, my Jewish friends, agnostics and atheists alike, are all mesmerized by this man from Argentina. Man we knew little about, but each and every day we get to know more about this faith-filled disciple of Jesus Christ. But I have to admit, one of the things I so love and admire about this Pope is something that drives his security detail wild. He just changes things right away and they all go scurrying off. It happened the first Sunday. He wasn't even the Pope yet. He was Pope designate, I suppose. He hadn't been installed. And he had celebrated Mass at a very small church right inside of the Vatican walls, the Church of Santa Anna. And he celebrated the Mass, and he greeted people after Mass like a parish priest does. And then the crowds outside in Italy saw him, and they were screaming his name. They wanted to see him. And so he left his security detail behind, which obviously he broke protocol. And you could see the Swiss guards just kind of all going crazy. And there he was, the people's Pope. He was one with us. Whether he was ministering in the slums of Buenos Aires or talking to dignitaries now around the world, greeting them in the name of Christ, he's the same man, spreading the same gospel message. But he did something on March 28th that was absolutely remarkable. And I actually had to stop. I don't know if you saw this. It did get some notoriety in the newspapers. The press picked up on it. Catholic news press certainly picked up on it. Pope Francis led a communal penance service at St. Peter's Basilica on March 28th. He was joined by about 60 priests. They were going to go off and hear confessions in St. Peter's. And in his usual fashion, Pope Francis broke with protocol, went aside and went and knelt at a confessional before he himself began hearing confessions. He taught us that the man we call His Holiness is still imperfect like you and like me. Why do I share this tonight? Because as we see and hear Jesus call Lazarus out of the tomb in this familiar passage from John that we hear in the first cycle of Cycle A, each fifth Sunday of Lent, I don't know about you, but I can envision Jesus calling Lazarus out of the tomb, tightly wound with burial bands, looking like a mummy. Imagine, so constricted he couldn't walk. And he comes out of the tomb, and Jesus says, "Untie him and let him go." Untie him and let him go. I love those words. That phrase is so powerful, so poignant for us living in 2014. Because you see, what the Holy Father did, what Jesus did so long ago for our friend Lazarus, are so interconnected. As Lazarus was bound by those burial bands because of his death, so sin binds us. And when that sin gets so tightly wound around us, when it envelops us, we can't even walk any longer. We're like that waddling image of Lazarus who comes stumbling out of the tomb. And Jesus recognizes that that's not who we are. And that's not who he's called us to be. And when, in the sacrament of reconciliation, we go, like Pope Francis, we hear Jesus say, yes, I free you from sin, I absolve you from sin. But he also says that you're untied from the sin. And now you're able to go and live in peace and freedom. To that end, I'd like to extend an invitation to everyone, as I've done at all the Masses this weekend. Come and join me and 4 other confessors on Wednesday evening here at St. Mary's at 7 o'clock, so that we can know the mercy of God. It's something that I relish as a priest. It's something that helps me to think clearly, when I can get rid of the sins that I carry around, that tightness. Come and hear those words, I absolve you, I forgive you. But come and be unbound by that sin. Come and hear Jesus say to you and to me, you have been untied from your sin. You're now free to go.